Hey folks, welcome to a podcast about Catholic things. This is Eric, the ambassador of common sense, and I'm here with
Dan, the ambassador of nonsense. Welcome, everyone.
I noticed somebody turned down my mic. We got to turn this back up.
Uh-oh. Wait.
All right.
Oh, you mean on the computer?
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to talk about what everyone is talking about. Fatima, Ukraine, Russia, and now Pope Francis. Which we've said it quite a few times, long before this trouble came up, that wouldn't it be weird?
Well, yeah, I mean, didn't I even speculate that wouldn't it be weirdly ironic, but somehow cool if Francis was the one to finally pull the trigger, so to speak? But I even speculated that he might do it just because he doesn't really think there's anything to it.
Right. But, okay, if he were going to do it, all right, well, we'll get into it. But,
yep.
All right, so for someone who doesn't know anything about this, real quick history. 1917, the Virgin Mary appeared to 3 children, and she told them some things, and then one of the things she told them was that Russia would spread her heirs throughout the world, and that until Russia was consecrated to her Immaculate Heart, there would be war over this, there would be persecutions, and the Pope would suffer.
Didn't she even say many nations will be annihilated?
Yeah, some nations will be annihilated. Which
well, we've seen that in the 20th century.
Well, I don't know. What's annihilated?
I mean, in the sense that boundaries were redrawn and whole countries just went away, like Yugoslavia, for example.
But that's always happened.
Well, okay, there's some degree, I guess, to which, but I mean,
I don't know about that.
I would say there was more of that, because even where you had like boundaries being disputed back and forth and that kind of stuff, you didn't just have like whole countries. Oh, okay, you're no longer a country now.
Yeah. Plus the fact that, unlike before, this is during World War I, and it was the first time entire worlds were at war. You know, so it affected more countries than just one or two.
Yeah, than any before, right?
Because then came World War II. She also said the war would end soon, but that if man didn't change his ways, there would be a second war, and it would be even worse than the first, which did happen. And she said Russia would spread her heirs throughout the world. In the end, Russia would be consecrated to her Immaculate Heart, and there would be a time of peace. That's what she said, according to Sister Lucia. There were 3 kids that the Virgin appeared to. The youngest 2 have already died. They died shortly after that. And then Sister Lucia, Lucia became Sister Lucia and entered a convent, and there she's been ever since. And, hold on here. Let me see. And she died in 2005, Sister Lucia did. Since then, people have been trying to get the Pope to consecrate Russia to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, along with an order for all the bishops of the world to do so at the same time. There have been like 7 or 8 attempts to do this, and none of them have done it the way Sister Lucia described the Virgin Mary as asking. A lot of people say that Pope John Paul II did do it because he consecrated the entire world, along with the bishops, to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. And since Russia is in the world, there you go. Sister Lucia was asked, did he fulfill Mary's request? And she said, yes, he did.
Yeah, that's one of those things that I question whether she was provided correct information.
Right.
She may have been told, okay, the Pope did it in union with all the bishops. He consecrated the whole world and specifically called out Russia. And she says, oh, okay, well then, yeah, that's what Our Lady asked for. But he didn't call out Russia.
Right. And
I read the word Russia doesn't appear in the act of consecration that he used.
And she may have been told, yes, the USSR fell, and she's thinking, oh, okay, Russia's been converted.
Well, that's true too, because, and that's one of the things. You look at the timeline. Okay, there was a lot of stuff that happened after this consecration of the world, possibly through the many graces that were derived from that consecration. Mm-hmm. I mean, it could be that John Paul II's act had big effects throughout the world, including the fall, what we consider the fall of the Soviet Union. But the Soviet Union did not exist in 1917, and Our Lady didn't say the Soviet Union will spread its errors, or the Soviet Union will perdure, or that the Soviet Union will do this or that,
right?
Until, and so forth. She said that Russia will spread her errors throughout the world. And in fact, there's the two different times. There's the actual vision, and then there's another private revelation that was some years later, where the qualification of all the bishops was kind of brought into it. That was
right.
That was something brought in a later. But there's this thing that says, it's kind of like predicted. It will come too late.
Right.
By then, Russia will have spread her errors throughout the world, but my Immaculate Heart will save Russia.
Yeah.
But here's the thing about that. First of all, Russia's not done spreading her errors throughout the world.
Well, her errors are here in America.
Marxism. And more so, I can envision a set of world events playing out where practically the entire world is suffering under Marxist rule. Not like the way we had, we talk about being under Marxist rule in the United States under like a Democrat administration and that kind of stuff. But I mean under true Marxist rule, like in China. Mm-hmm. And then the Pope, maybe the current Pope, maybe some future Pope, finally gets it.
Well,
and then it ends up Russia is converted, Russia is saved, but the whole rest of the world is under some kind of Marxist rule. And now Russia becomes the launching point for re-evangelizing the world.
Okay. But a lot of people say it's already happened.
Because of the 1984
Pope John
thing.
Paul II's, right. Now...
Well, that's why I said Russia's not done.
But let's go over
her
some
errors.
Things. First of all,
yeah, let's.
This original, the original secret was given to them in 1917,
right?
And what she quotes is, let's see, there's a couple things. Okay, she doesn't quote anything. She has the vision in 1917, where she later says that she was given secrets. Mm-hmm. One of the things, well, we'll get there when because as of right now, she's the only one who knows them. Later on, in 1926, the infant Jesus appears to Sister Lucia. She's alone now because the other two are dead. Mm-hmm. And asks her to, let's see, hold on, let me get this right, because I had a little timeline here. What happened to it? What'd you do with it, Danny?
I didn't do anything. I wasn't even aware of the 1926 thing.
Okay, wait a minute. I had a, I'll have to cut this out, but there's a,
the child, okay, yeah.
There's a timeline I had.
It's a...
The apparitions were in 1917, and then Mary appears to her again in 1925 and asks for the first Saturday devotion. Then she returns in 1926 and asks for the first Saturday devotion. I just said that. And asks her to spread the first Saturday devotion.
Okay.
And then she comes in 1929 and requests that Russia be consecrated.
Yeah, that's which she had asked that Russia,
but it's not real clear.
Be consecrated in 1917. There was a clarification supposedly in 1929.
No,
yes,
she didn't ask. She did not ask for Russia to be consecrated to her.
Okay, she says that on July 13th, 1917, God wishes to... This is Lucia talking about the three children. Two quotes. I shall come to ask for the consecration of Russia to my Immaculate Heart. If people attend to my requests, Russia will be converted and the rest of the world will be appeased. Okay, so maybe that's not asking, that's just promising to come and ask.
Yeah, that's saying, I'm going to come back and ask.
When 1929, that's when she came to ask.
Okay.
Then, that makes sense. You're right.
What I want to know is, when did Sister Lucia write down, when did she talk to whoever? The Pope? The Bishop? When did she come to him and say, hey, this is what Mary wants? You know what I mean? I question all of this stuff.
How did the 1929 request reach the Pope?
And no matter where I look,
clearly it reached the Pope.
I get going back and forth. But the stuff that we normally read, like the Three Secrets, that wasn't written until 1941.
Oh, and maybe the 1929 one wasn't either.
Yeah, when was that written? When was the... Here, I got something. Okay, 1929, they asked for the consecration of Russia.
Yeah, that is a excellent question.
The Lord communicates to Sister Lucia his dissatisfaction with the failure of the popes and bishops to obey his command to consecrate Russia. But when did she tell him that? In 1931. When did she tell him that you're supposed to consecrate Russia? I can't find that anywhere. Was it a personal message? Was it a written letter? And
did she convey it to her bishop who sat on it?
Yeah.
I mean, if she did that, we might not know. There may be no way for us to discover that at this point.
But this is why I question all of this. Because
everything
little things
after
like
the
that,
original 1917 apparitions.
Yeah. We've got, and then even when she talks,
the right provenance of this stuff.
Even when she talks about in 1941, when she's writing the secrets, the bishop had said, I want you to write these down and she wrote the first two.
I'm giving you an order as a matter of obedience. Right.
Well, no, at first she asked him to, and she said that Our Lady appeared and said, yeah, you can write them down. She wrote down the first two, but had trouble with the last one. And finally, the bishop said, I'm telling you under obedience to do it. And that's when she wrote down the third secret.
Right. Now, is the third secret this... I don't think the third secret is this thing about the consecration. I think that's the second secret.
Say that again?
I think the thing about the consecration is the second secret, not the third secret.
Right. I'm just giving you a timeline of when she wrote these secrets. But that was all done in 1941. So in 1941, people take the words that she wrote in 1941 and act as if this is a direct quote from Mary. And it's not.
Now, I'm looking at, EWTN.com consecration timeline. And it has 1937, Pius XI is informed of the request from 1929 by the Bishop of Leiria, Dom Jose Alves Correa da Silva.
Yeah. So it's not even until years later that the
About 8 years
Pope
later.
is even made aware of this.
But in 1931, she was chided by who? Jesus or Mary? Supposedly.
She was told of Jesus's dissatisfaction with the popes. So why was she? When did you say she made the request to the Pope?
Well, not she. 1937 is when the bishop
37
conveyed the request to the Pope.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking this bishop sat on it for 8 years. So, oh yeah, okay, whatever. He probably didn't even believe the original 1917 apparitions.
But in 1931, she has a vision, and the Lord is saying that the popes and the Catholic bishops didn't obey his command.
Right. Consider the various ways of expressing things in languages. Mm-hmm. I'm dissatisfied that the bishops and the Pope have not done this yet. I'm laying it at your feet. You need to make them aware of the need to do this. You see what I mean? That could be the message.
Now, that could be. That's another part of this, is that people take quotes either from her or from other people quoting her and act like, well, see, God said, or the lady said, blah, blah, blah. And we're getting a filter. Yeah. It's not even just that it's another language. It's a whole understanding of things. For example, when she's quoting Our Lady, in 1941, she's quoting Our Lady from 1917. This is a great many years later.
That's a long time.
Yeah. How are you going to remember all that? And even if
I'd like to think if Our Lady came and talked to me, I'd remember what she said, but that's a doggone long time.
Right. And not only that, there are certain things that make you know almost absolutely this isn't a direct quote of Mary. For example, the war is going to end, but if people do not cease offending God, a worse one will break out during the pontificate of Pope Pius XI. Pope Pius XI wasn't a thing yet. Wouldn't she have questioned that?
Yeah.
Who's Pope Pius XI?
Although here's the thing.
She could have said the next pope or something like that.
Or but here's the thing that it could be that Lucia is translating what was said back then into what she knows to be now.
That's what I assume.
Also, keep in mind that Lucia didn't. The children. They were very young children, and they didn't do too much to really question Our Lady about what she was saying. When she said that Russia would spread her errors throughout the world, the children didn't even know about Russia as a nation, as a country. They didn't know what Russia was. They thought Russia was like a woman of ill repute, but they didn't question it. That's just they kind of took it at face value. Okay, this lady Russia's going to spread her errors throughout the world, and accepted it as it was presented to them. So during the reign of, or the pontificate of Pius XI or whatever, I could see them just accepting that as stated without questioning. Well, wait a minute. What do you mean Pius? There's no Pius XI. So, again, it's a lot of. There's a lot to be. There's a lot that we can't nail down about the whole thing, other than the appearance itself, and probably, everything that they reported in the original secrets. Certainly, the stuff years later about the third secret, probably some interpretation and translation. I can't imagine that she could help doing that. And then everything in between, it's okay. Here's the thing. I have to believe that the 1929 thing is real. And here's why. Because in 1917, Our Lady says, I shall come to ask for the consecration of Russia.
Well,
if my requests are heeded, Russia will be converted. There will be peace. If not, she will spread her errors.
well,
She's
wait a minute.
predicting a future encounter.
Yeah, I know, but that's what she said. She said. I mean, just keep in mind that
Yeah,
it's
but I don't think this is
1941 when this
1941.
is being. Yeah,
no,
it is.
1941 is when she revealed the third secret.
No. She wrote down the first two secrets in 41. She didn't write down anything until 41, I don't think. Hold on. We should make sure of this.
Let's confirm that. When was
The second prophecy was not disclosed until August of 1941, after World War II had already begun.
Oh, okay.
And Pope Pius XI had been named. Of course, by then, it was in 1939 that
You're
Pope
right.
Pius XII comes in.
Two of the secrets were revealed in 1941 at the request of this same bishop who waited until 1937 to convey the request to Pope Pius XI.
Yeah. So it's just... I hear people talk about it, and they talk about it as if they're experts, but really they only talk about the three quotes, and almost the entire argument is around these three secrets that were written down, over 20 years later. That's what everybody's arguing about. And then, aside from that, the later discussion from the apparitions in 1925, 26, and 29.
Right.
It was in 29 that she did, according to... So we've just gone through kind of how it happened. 17 is the appearance. 25, she gets an apparition. 26, she gets an apparition. And in 29, she gets an apparition saying, I want them to consecrate the... Russia
now
to me.
I'm making this request, yeah.
Now, as far as we know, the only person she would have been able to tell that to is her bishop and her confessor, and maybe if she has like a...
hold on, when did she enter the convent? Because she's not
like
in
21.
a open convent.
No.
She's in a secluded
34.
convent. What? When? 34?
She's 34.
Okay, so she would have still been able to talk to people in 29.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe she did talk to someone.
Let's say she tells her priest. Let's say she couldn't have gotten an audience with the Pope.
Right.
Or, she might have been granted one if she had, pursued it. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine that she would have known how to...
She's still a kid at
request
that age, really.
That kind of a thing. Yeah, she's still a young girl. It's not like these kids are worldly in any sense. They're holy, but they're not worldly. And so the concept of, wait a minute, I need to speak to the Pope. Our Lady told me that. Well, let me tell my priest. What else are you going to do? Hey, my Lady, Our Lady, the lady who appeared in the visions, 22 years ago, she told me this. Or not 22 years ago, but 12 years ago. She told me this. She wants this. Okay.
She's also in contact with certain officials because they're still investigating the original visions. Mm-hmm. And it's in... The church approves of the visions in 1930.
Okay, so this request came... before the church even gave an official approval to the original visions.
Right.
So it's not like the hierarchy. Her priest, her bishop, was going to jump on it when she came and said, hey, now Our Lady has asked for this.
Right.
By this time, certainly she knew what Russia was as a country and so on and so forth. But
I don't think... I mean, I know there was a... let's see. There was a revolution in Russia. The Bolshevik Revolution. Right? That was in 17 to 23. So it's kind of in the midst of the
around
original
1917.
vision.
Yeah.
But I don't think... We don't have communists yet, right?
Well, the Bolshevik Revolution was a Marxist-based revolution. I mean, Lenin was a Marxist. It was a revolution of so-called the workers, workers of the world unite, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I guess. I guess it was. She wouldn't have known it then, though, and I don't think. I know we knew what communism was. We knew what anarchism was, and there were anarchists and communists and I can't think of the word. Antifa is anti.
Oh, fascists.
And there were fascists. These three powers were fighting each other in almost every European country, trying to gain ground. And it was going on all over Europe. And in some of the areas, like in Russia, communism won. In Italy, it was fascism.
And, well, in 1922, that's when the Soviet Union was established. There was only
okay.
I think there were only like a small handful of republics that were part of the Soviet Union at that time. They, beyond that, then they started expanding. So 7 years after that is when Our Lady comes and asks for the consecration of Russia, which presumably, if that had happened within a few years after that, way before World War II.
Yeah.
20-something years before World War II. So, about 20 years. So, presumably, history could have been a lot different.
Yeah, thanks.
If that had been done.
Yeah. But Russia would not have
spread.
But
here's the thing.
Communism, Marxism, everywhere.
Right, but let's take the 1941 recounts of the 29 and of the 17 visions.
Okay.
It would still be a stretch in 1941 for Sister Lucia, who had been in a secluded convent since 1934. You said.
Mm-hmm.
To talk about the Russia spreading her errors throughout the world. This is not the verbiage of a woman who is looking at the political signs of the times and responding to them within her own mind. Given the fact that she was in this secluded convent since 1934, this is clearly still something that had been revealed to her.
Now, see, okay, I've got another timeline claiming that, and this is Marian.org, Fatima, that on 1927, which is the year before she's asked to consecrate Russia.
2 years before.
Yeah. She was given permission
a little bit before.
By the Lord to write down the first two parts of the secret.
Oh. Did she do it then? Well, maybe she did.
That's what I don't get it. I don't.
Well, no. I mean, given permission to write them down, but that doesn't mean to reveal them. Maybe she wrote them like in a diary or something, a journal that she kept to herself.
I don't know why she would have wanted permission to do that.
Maybe she felt a burden. Like, wait a minute, if these are secrets that I'm supposed to keep, 10 years have gone by now.
Well, hold on. Let's find out what...
And having written those down may have been what allowed her to have, record them, in more detail and with more certainty in 1941.
Yeah.
But what's weird is that presumably the request initially was conveyed to the Pope 8 years after it was conveyed, given by Our Lady to
according to
Sister
some
Lucia.
accounts. Yeah.
According to some accounts. But that was 4 years prior to Our Lady writing down the first two secrets at the order of her bishop. Okay.
Sister Lucia describes the vision of 1929 as thus. Our Lady said to me, the moment has come in which God asked the Holy Father, in union with all the bishops of the world, to make the consecration of Russia to my Immaculate Heart. So she's no longer quoting, she says, I gave an account of this to the confessor, who ordered me to write down what Our Lady wanted done. Later in an intimate, I think that's supposed to be intimate intimate communication, our Lord complained to me, saying they did not wish to heed my request. Like the King of France, they will repent and do it, but it will be late. Russia will already have spread her errors throughout the world, provoking wars and persecutions of the church.
Okay.
But
so that's kind of like what I was saying.
But this is she wrote. She didn't write this in 29, though.
No.
She's describing what happened in 29.
In 29.
When did she write?
Well, you just said
nobody knows.
Well,
she told her confessor, and her confessor
at the
said
order
to write
of her
it down.
confessor, she wrote it down. But when did that happen?
Yeah. That's what I'd like to know.
Was it in 30, 31? Was it in 41, 42, 43? But it was. But here's the thing. Regardless of when that happened, somehow the request... Well, okay, we don't really know that Pope Pius XI got the request in 1937. We do. There is a 1938. Portuguese bishops asked Pius XI for the consecration of the world. It is said they were influenced to do this by the spiritual director of Blessed Alexander. Okay, that's irrelevant. That has nothing to do with Fatima. Okay, request made to Pius XII through the Bishop of Macau, and a little later through Father Gonzaga de Francesca. Mention is made of Our Lady asking the consecrating of Russia to the Immaculate Heart. Okay, so unless there's an actual paper, some kind of surviving document of the 1937 request from Bishop Dom Jose Alvarez Correa de Silva, the first one that I think we really can count on is the request in 1940. It says mention is made of Our Lady asking. So that sounds like there's an actual physical letter that people are referring to. So 1940, I think, is the first one that we can really count on. Okay, the papacy is now aware of this request. I don't know if we can count on the 1937 one from the EWTN timeline.
Right, I see so many timelines saying different things. Very few of them actually quote anything and say, this was written on this day and this is what it says. Now, that just doesn't exist.
In 1940, this is again according to the EWTN timeline, it says, Sister Lucia writes a letter to Pius XII saying that our Lord himself requests the Pope to consecrate, and now quote start, consecrate the world to the Immaculate Heart of Mary with a special mention for Russia, and order that all the bishops of the world do the same in union with your holiness. Now, this special mention of Russia, I think that, that's the one that down the line, 1984, without, can you mention Russia without naming Russia? I don't know.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, 1940... And again, this is before the 41 where she wrote down the first and second secret. She's sending this letter. It makes me think there's a letter somewhere, a physical letter that people could translate into English, and we ought to be able to find and go read that letter and get a sense of, okay, does this sound like Sister Lucia correctly remembering, again, now she would have been, 6 years in a secluded convent? Remembering things from 1929.
Well,
and then maybe a little bit of a 1931 follow-up from our Lord or something.
I don't know how secluded she was. I mean, she had interviews with people. She wrote things.
My understanding is that she could exchange letters.
Like she visited Fatima.
Were very infrequent and had to have special arrangement. And they were through a, one of the, basically a confessional shield. Mm-hmm. I mean, it wasn't like, two people, hey, let's go have lunch and talk about this stuff. It wasn't like that.
Right.
I mean, it still was a a seclusion. And now, I don't know how much they were, like, brought news about world events or anything. I have no idea what it's like in these convents. Probably very little news of the outside world leaked in.
Well,
but
okay.
I would like to know these are all relevant questions that, I mean, people can put together.
And I don't think anyone even has an answer to these. And I see all these timelines, these people who pretend that they're experts on this. But it's like, how do you know this?
It's all rumor unless you can produce a letter.
Yeah.
Or, talk to somebody. Okay, wait a minute. This person explicitly states this, and he remembers this, and he read this letter, and he handed it to the Pope. Okay,
remember,
we're
not even talking about the third secret yet.
Believable. No. We're just talking about the consecration thing.
Right.
These are things that everybody else takes for granted.
Yeah.
That we're asking questions about. Wait a minute. When did this happen? How do we know it happened? Where's the document that shows that it happened? And so on and so forth. Here's the thing. Obviously, I fully believe the 1917 apparitions. I completely believe the existence, the historical reality of the 1929 apparition. Mm-hmm. But all of the exact content of it and all of the, stuff that happened between then and now and, how long it was since, the original one and when she wrote stuff down. It's very fuzzy. It's like, okay, I either have to accept a whole bunch of stuff as though it's gospel.
Yeah.
Or I have to say, well, okay, maybe not.
Kind of question everything.
So
and
let's
then it's
look
at...
okay, well, wait a minute. You keep pushing the line back. Okay, well, if you question this, maybe you question this, maybe you question this. Well, then you get back to the original apparitions. Well, you can't really, the news reports of the miracle of the sun, that's kind of like the stopping point. It's like, well, okay, wait a minute. Something happened there. You can't question that. And then you start going forward and say, okay, but what can you count on based on that? And what is something that you can...
I have
maybe
a confession.
It's a pious rumor.
I'm sorry, but in Cincinnati, there was this Miracle of Lights, Our Lady of Light. I think that's what it was called.
Really? Did it really
Mary
happen?
was supposed to be appearing to this priest, and she would come in the form of flashing lights at the onset of darkness. Once a year, something like that.
I don't know. It sounds like LSD.
Well, supposedly everybody would be able to see it. So
everybody.
I went there. Yeah, I went.
Did you see anything?
If somebody said, "What did you see?" I would say, "I saw a bunch of camera flashes." That's what I would say. This is a time when digital was not very big.
Yeah, everybody had their phone cameras.
Everybody had
what
regular
year was this?
cameras.
Do you remember?
Veronica had just been born, so it would have been like 98, 99.
Okay, yeah, right around turn of the millennium.
I was angry when I walked away. I thought I would see something miraculous. Yeah. But that's what I saw. But I went with other people, and other people talked about the miracle they had just witnessed.
And you're like, what are you talking about?
Right. So
how did they describe
I'm not questioning the 1917 miracle. All I'm saying is I've had a bunch of people with me telling me they witnessed a miracle, and I don't know what the heck they're talking about.
How do they describe it?
They said there were flashes all over the place. I said, yeah.
And you said, yeah, like from cameras.
Because everybody had their cameras out.
Okay, yeah.
Do you understand how after experiencing that, when somebody says, well, all the reporters reported the same thing, and that's not true. A lot of people
they didn't report the
same
thing. They reported a few different things, but there were things. There
was the dry ground that can't really be explained.
There's the dry ground.
That way.
There's there's the fact that, like, you went. Here's the thing: in this non-miracle that you went to, you went as a believer, hoping to see a miracle, and you saw a bunch of camera flashes.
And I'll admit, I was hoping for affirmation. You know,
was there anybody at this? Was there anybody that you talked to from this thing that was there as a non-believer, simply there to report on the stupidity of the believers who was astounded by the fact of this miracle? Because
not that I know of.
That's what happened at Fatima.
I know that
of the Sun.
I did bring a non-believer with me.
Mm-hmm. And he went away a non-believer. I
don't know if he did or not. He seemed He seemed very quiet the rest of the night.
Oh, okay.
He didn't... I never cornered him and said, "Did you see anything?" But he seemed touched. Yeah. I know another person who said they didn't see anything. I know another person I know 2 or 3 people who said, "Yeah, I saw all these flashes and you couldn't follow them and you couldn't see where they were coming from and things like that." But in a dark place, that's a camera flash.
That's how it works.
When people just take for granted, well, it was seen by everyone. Yeah, so was Our Lady of Light.
Why would Our Lady appear as flashes anyway? Because presumably this is how this priest was seeing Our Lady, like, multiple times?
Yeah, it was once a year it would happen.
And then what? Okay,
she would talk to him.
I'm going to appear to you as a bunch of flashes.
And give him some messages, and that's about it.
Okay.
I never read his
messages. Make any sense?
I never read them. Because I thought I was so disappointed by the whole experience. I was like, I don't want to hear anything else about it. And I don't know. That's always stuck with me. So when people talk about Fatima, even though it's widely accepted, I'm sorry. I'm not that quick to jump on it. It was approved by the church. That doesn't mean it was true. We certainly don't have to believe it's true.
Yeah, we're not required by faith.
I do believe
to believe
it is true. I do believe it.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying I'm not going to poo-poo someone if they don't believe it.
Right.
And I don't see anything wrong with calling the whole thing into question.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with saying, wait a minute, how do you know this? But let's talk about 2 different scenarios.
Okay.
Scenario 1 is that the normies out there, the people who have yet to be red-pilled, who think that that Pope John Paul II...
You mean they accept Fatima, because that's a normal Catholic position.
Yeah.
They accept the statement that the 1984 consecration was the real one, and they probably accept that the attempted assassination of JP2 was the fulfillment of the manifestation, the
third
secret vision.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are the normies. Got it.
Actually, I'm not even going to touch the third secret because that's
okay. So we'll put that somewhere else. So they believe Fatima, but they accept that it was already done in 1984. And I got to tell you, there was a lot of what seemed like miraculous stuff that happened after 1984. No doubt about that.
Including the fall of the USSR, which we know as Russia. Well, I mean, I know we don't know it as Russia, but that was Russia.
But wow, Russia just
lost
all its power.
All the land.
The USSR fell. But was that a conversion of Russia?
Well, that's the other question here that I haven't seen anyone ask. Mm-hmm. We are so used to... We've been conditioned to pretty much ignore anything coming out of Russia and treat it as propaganda. With good reason.
Oh, right.
If Putin tells us, or his propaganda pieces tell us, that they are a Christian nation now, of course we don't believe that.
Right.
But the Russian Orthodox Church does exist now, and it didn't exist before. And it's my understanding that Catholic churches also exist in Russia.
Okay, let's hold on, back up. The Russian Orthodox Church it did exist even before, I think, the conversion of Russia to communism. And it was suppressed under the communist dictatorship, whereas now it's the official Church of Russia.
Are you sure?
Yes.
And are the bishops...
It's the official Church of Russia in the sense that Russia now controls Christianity by making this the official church, and you don't have the same privileges that you do as a religion if you're not Russian Orthodox. Now, Catholic churches do exist in Russia.
Wait a minute. Is this the way that, say, the Catholic Church existed in England pre King Henry the sixth, fifth, who gave us the Church of England?
The eighth, you mean?
The eighth? I thought it was like the fifth.
King Henry the Eighth was
gave us the
yeah.
Okay,
this is
so
the famous song "I'm Henry the Eighth."
Yeah, I know, but that's just a song.
Well, I know, but yeah, that's
I resist
making fun of King Henry the Eighth.
Temptation to call him the eighth because I know that's just a song. But maybe so it's the eighth.
Right.
Pre King Henry, the Catholic Church did exist in England, but obviously it was controlled by the state. That's why the entire church broke away from Rome. Is that the way the Russian Orthodox Church exists in Russia right now?
I think initially not. Because I think initially sometime around or before the turn of the first millennium, it was actually the Byzantine Rite that was kind of made the official religion of Russia. When it actually became specifically Russian, I don't know. But the current modern Russian Orthodox tradition and churches trace their continuity back to that.
Yeah, I know. But what I'm saying is,
first
are
millennium.
they under the control of Putin? That's what I'm asking.
Oh yes, I think
is it just a government? Is this a bureaucracy?
It's a government church, but it's one that still has apostolic succession.
Yeah.
So because
I'm just trying to find out if
Putin didn't come in and
controls
change,
the church,
like Henry VIII did, or like I think it wasn't Henry VIII himself, but some subsequent, king or parliament of England or whatever, actually changed the rites of the sacraments in a way that broke apostolic succession in the Church of England. That hasn't happened in the Church of Russia. So when I was in Russia, in theory, if I couldn't find a Catholic church, I could go to a Russian Orthodox. Yeah. And I even asked, about this before I went over there.
I'm not really asking that. That's got nothing to do with what I'm saying.
Okay, but yes, they are.
Is the church controlled by Putin?
The state. They are controlled by Putin, by the state. Yes.
If the state says tomorrow you are going to marry gay people, is that what's going to happen?
Probably not that directly. There may be some tension there. We don't know how that would work or play out. But, Putin isn't interested in doing that to the Russian church. What he's more interested in doing is using it to make sure that he's in control of Christians.
Right.
You believe what you want, but I'm in control. I think that's more what it's about.
Okay. If...
And a way of controlling other...
If the normies are right... then Russia has been converted.
Because it is largely Russian Orthodox, which is the official religion of Russia. I mean, it's not like the official religion of Russia is atheism or is some
or is no religion at all.
Protestantism. It's a brand of Christianity that is in schism from Rome, but nonetheless retains apostolic succession.
Yeah.
So you could make an argument that a conversion has taken place, certainly from the communists, under communism, beautiful cathedrals in Russia, and, they really have some cool cathedrals in Russia.
Yeah, they do.
Were converted into, museums dedicated to atheism. Stupid stuff like that.
Yeah. And that's not happening now. So...
That's true. That's true.
If Russia has been converted at this point, and again, what do you really know about Russia? I mean, everything comes filtered.
Yeah.
And what we do hear from Russia, none of us believe. Why? Because we're used to them being communists.
Communists are liars. That's true.
And I don't even know if Putin is a Marxist. I know he's not a communist.
You know what? That's a good point. Putin wants to restore Russia's preeminence in the world, a la Soviet Union, let's say. But that doesn't mean he wants to rule it as a Marxist regime. Now, I personally think he probably does want to. I don't know. But my point is, we can't conclude the one from the other. That's my point.
And there's another part of this. Communism, the brand that we know, the Marxism that we all grew up with in the 80s, they were down and determined to kill Christianity.
Oh, absolutely.
They wanted it gone. There was no tolerance for it, let alone working with it or anything like that. It was not tolerated. That was the error that Russia spread throughout the world, is this atheism and this hatred for the church. And that is what's in America now. That is what's all over Europe right now. Mm-hmm. Now, they're not ruling yet, but that has spread. It's in all the schools. Yeah. It's in our government.
And if
is
the
it
Russian
in Russia?
Orthodox Church, the Russian Orthodox is not in union with the Pope, but if the Russian Orthodox Church is the official religion in Russia, you could make an argument that hatred of Christianity exists in ways throughout the rest of the world that it does not now exist in Russia.
That's kind of what I just want to point out. And I'm not saying I believe that's the truth. I'm just pointing out
you can't dismiss the normies out of hand.
Yeah. You can't just say, oh, you just haven't been red-pilled yet. And it's like, well, wait a minute. They do that to us. I'm not going to do that to them.
Think it through. Right.
There is a case here.
Yeah.
And the other side of this is it didn't happen yet. Russia is in a state where Putin's trying to rebuild what was lost. We know he's a killer. Now, what he's done in the past 10 years, I don't know. I don't know anything about the past 10 years. I do know that he just arrested one of the Wikipedia editors for editing certain sections of the Ukraine-Russia entries.
Yeah, I mean it's like 15 years to be critical.
He doesn't
15 years in prison.
Yeah, he doesn't tolerate anti-Russia propaganda. He doesn't tolerate it. That's
not the same thing as hating the church.
Right,
it's the same thing as hating freedom.
Right,
but yeah,
obviously this is a bad guy. But the only reason we're not in jail for publishing our podcast is, well, for two things. Because nobody listens to it. But also because that isn't within the law yet.
Yet. Yeah, that's a big word, yet.
The people who hate us would do it if they could.
Yeah.
And even the normies can admit that. If YouTube could put us in real jail as opposed to YouTube jail, they'd do it.
So let's accept the direst aspects of, hypothetically, the direst aspects of the remembered, the recalled, wordings, quotes of Our Lady, and so on and so forth by Sister Lucia, and at the same time accept the normie position that the 1984 consecration was the real deal. Okay, so Jesus says they will do it, but it will be too late. Russia will have spread her errors. So let's then say, okay, Russia, even though Putin's a bad man, okay, a country can be have a bad leader and still be basically a converted country, whatever. So let's say that Russia is converted and they're on a path back to a more total conversion, even eventually through ways that we don't understand, union with Rome. Yeah. But Russia has already cast her errors throughout the world, so that now obviously you have this ascendant China, which is in no means converted, that's absolutely Marxist and communist. And we see other countries now more and more wanting to be socialist, both
including
the European Union and the United
Vatican.
States.
And the Vatican.
And so, including the Vatican,
our Pope is
too.
a Marxist.
That's right. Yeah, the Vatican as well. So now, it's true that it was too late, that Russia did spread her errors throughout the world, and those errors, think of them as seeds, are only now starting to grow into saplings and eventually actual trees that are taking root in countries like the United States, where you never thought you'd see something like that.
Right.
And even though the conversion of Russia is well underway, let's say, let's surmise and hypothesize.
Right.
At the same time, her errors that she spread throughout the world are going to cover it like a canopy.
Yeah, they're growing and
cause just like our Lord supposedly predicted to Sister Lucia. So the normie assumptions still work.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean, and they still spell dire futures for most of the world.
At the same time, some of the red pillars also work.
Yeah, that's true.
That the errors that were spread was communism. It's just that communism Marxism more than communism, but it exists in a different way now, and it's gaining strength. Slowly, it's gaining strength as it chokes out the real followers of Christ, so that they're not visible anymore.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Those that are truly dedicated to Marxism, they have to suppress the church. Because the church is fundamentally anti-Marxist. I mean, it's not like the church was set up as, Marxism come, we better set up but the fundamental understanding, the fundamental anthropology of the church that's based on Christology comes down against Marxism.
Yeah.
Or what you could say, turn it around. Marxism is fundamentally a perversion of a Christological understanding of the human race.
Yeah, it is.
So, and I kind of said this before in our one or two of our previous podcasts. Yes, Russia, Putin's a bad man, but we should be more worried about China than we are about Russia.
Definitely. Yeah, they're much more dangerous to it.
All of our discussion in this podcast so far kind of underscores that.
Yeah. Now, if that line of thinking is wrong, and it hasn't taken place yet, and Putin really is ultimately after, he's after control, and part of that is going to be destroying the church. Then we've got this, Ukrainian bishops are saying, Pope Francis, please consecrate us and Russia, because they were kind of, the two countries are tied, because sometimes Ukraine is part of Russia and sometimes not. But
yeah. I mean, Ukraine was like the launch pad of the conversion of Russia to Christianity, I think, by Saint Cyril and Methodius, who converted the Slavic peoples. They did it from Kiev in Ukraine. Yeah.
So Pope Francis says, yes, I will consecrate Russia to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, along with Ukraine. Not only that, but I'll send my bishop to do it in Fatima.
Right. But so what? If you believe the 1929...
If you believe that the narrative that we started with, that it has to be all the bishops, well, then he's still not doing it. So what? Not that it wouldn't be bad for him to do, but it still doesn't fulfill the request that we think Mary made. And so it's not really going to help the situation.
But here's the thing. Okay, so the normie scenario that you presented. Yeah. Okay, I'm going back, and again, this is 1917 to 1941 when she wrote these things down. How many years is that? That's like 24 years.
That's a little over 20. Like yeah.
Yeah, more than 20 years later. But and I'm going to this to the end of the section about converting Russia. The good will be martyred. The Holy Father will have much to suffer, and various nations will be annihilated. In the end, my Immaculate Heart will triumph. The Holy Father will consecrate Russia to me, and she will be converted. Here's the big kicker line. And a period of peace will be granted to the world. I don't think that has happened yet.
That has not happened. So that's
the sticker in the normie narrative.
Well, here's the problem. Normies don't believe that. Normies think we are at peace.
Oh. Well, that's
since the falling of USSR.
Oh, because we don't have the USSR to fight, we're at peace.
Ignoring all the other places we've been bombing and the places, between Vietnam and, what's the name for Afghanistan for the past 20 years?
Yeah.
Libya, there's a couple other places. But, the war's been happening.
What happens if more countries in South America turn totally socialist, like Venezuela? But the thing is about a socialist regime, a socialist empire. You take a tiny socialist country, Cuba, for example. Well, why does Cuba survive? Well, because there's other countries willing to take their big exports, which are sugar and Cuban rum and cigars or something like that. I don't know. But other than that, socialist countries survive when they're big. Like Russia, the USSR was big. Now China is big. It's not as big as Russia, but it's big. Now, and China also has the Chinese Communist Party kind of learned
changed it a little bit.
They've learned to play the capitalist game to the benefit of the Communist Party. It's
right.
China is almost a
I
thing
gotta
of
step
itself.
away from the mic for a second.
Oh, okay. China is almost a thing of itself that deserves its own kind of analysis. But what if South America, say, were to become more generally socialist, explicitly socialist, so that you had a number of countries uniting with, for example, Venezuela and Venezuelan-type socialism, to the extent where they were large enough to actually then survive for a reasonably long period as a socialist country. Okay, now they're socialist in the same way that, say, the USSR was socialist. And they're not very far from us in North America, and they developed, say, long-range nuclear missile technology, capabilities, and that kind of stuff. There's a whole lot of developments in the world that look forward to scenarios that are anything but peaceful. And we, it would be, I don't know, I guess it's just foolish or just anti-intellectual to say, hey, the world's at peace now. The world's been at peace since the Reagan administration or whatever, because of the fall of the USSR. No, the world hasn't been at peace. Now, the world may get to that peace promised by Our Lady. The normie narrative could still work out.
Yeah.
When the Russian conversion is complete, the world may be at peace. I don't know. But
maybe Russia becomes that beacon for the rest of us.
Yeah.
You don't know. Okay. I don't know.
Now, here's the thing. All of this stuff we've been talking about Fatima and Russia and Russia clearly, here's the thing, Russia clearly has, for some reason, a place in Our Lady's heart. Why does Our Lady love Russia and want Russia to be converted? I don't know. I do know that when I was in Russia, you go into the various places, you can go into like the kiosk stands in the Kremlin to buy, Trochka that it's meant for tourists and that kind of stuff. But first and foremost among these are icons of Our Lady.
Yeah.
The Russian people, it's just kind of this sort of cultural thing that Our Lady and images of Our Lady and thoughts of Our Lady just kind of permeates in on a popular level. And if you just spend time in Russia, you see that. But here's the thing. Let's see, 5 to 24. If you could stand for me to read about 20 verses of the Bible, I want to put all of this conversation that we've been having into a different context.
Okay.
Okay. I'm reading Luke, and I'm going to read about 20 verses so that, it's kind you get kind of the full measure.
Okay.
This is Luke chapter 21, and I'm starting at verse 5. Jesus is going to talk about, it's kind of funny. I don't know how it skips from one to the other, but Luke 21 opens with Jesus' observation about the widow that, and she's offering just a little bit to the poor, but it's kind of all she has. So it's like,
yeah,
she's making herself one of the poor that needs to rely on these offerings, and he praises her and says, she gave everything. It's kind of like in, you remember the Magnificent Seven when it's like the people they bring. Well, it's all we have, and the guy says, "Well, I've
never been offered everything.
I've never been offered everything before." Yeah, it's kind of like that. So anyway, but he like jumps immediately from that with no transition whatsoever into Jesus talking about the destruction of the temple. So I'm going to just start reading at verse 5. And some spoke of the temple, how it was adorned with noble stones and offerings. He said, "As for these things which you see, the days will come when there shall not be left here one stone upon another that will not be thrown down." And they asked him, "Teacher, when will this be? And what will be the sign when this is about to take place?" And he said, "Take heed that you are not led astray, for many will come in my name, saying, I am he, and the time is at hand. Do not go after them. And when you hear of wars and tumults, do not be terrified, for this must first take place, but the end will not be at once." Then he said to them, "Nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There will be great earthquakes, and in various places famines and pestilences, and there will be terrors and great signs from heaven. But before all this, they will lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and the prisons, and you will be brought before kings and governors for my name's sake. This will be a time for you to bear testimony. Settle it therefore in your minds not to meditate beforehand how to answer, for I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which none of your adversaries will be able to withstand or contradict. You will be delivered up even by parents and brothers and kinsmen and friends, and some of you they will put to death. You will be hated by all for my name's sake, but not a hair of your head will perish. By your endurance you will gain your lives." Obviously he's talking about eternal life. "But when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then know that its desolation has come near. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let those who are inside the city depart, and let not those who are out in the country enter it. For these are days of vengeance, to fulfill all that it is written. Alas, for those who are with child, and for those who are nursing in those days. For great distress shall come upon the earth, and wrath upon his people. They will fall by the edge of the sword, and be led captive among all nations." Now here's the puncher quote. "And Jerusalem will be trodden down by the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled." Now, take all of this stuff happening in world history and put it into that context. What does he mean? The times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. I mean, we had the Holy Roman Empire. We had the age of scholasticism. We had the ascendancy of Western culture and thought and philosophy and its service to Christianity and Catholicism and the church. Doesn't it feel like the age of the Gentiles is coming to an end?
Yeah, but what's after the age of the Gentiles?
Then Jerusalem, the Jews, will no longer be downtrodden. I think we may be in world history And in another verse, another gospel, Jesus says, hey, in terms of the end of time, we can't know. And we're not supposed to try to know. But other things he says, take heed from the signs. And he even gives an example. When you see the buds on the fig tree, you know that spring is here. Take heed of the times. I think we are coming to a point in world history, it may be in the next 10 years, it may be in the next 100 years, when we will see the corporate
Jews rise up.
Conversion of the Jewish people to Catholicism.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to coincide, and this is just pure speculation on my part, with the period of peace. Now, how Russia figures it, I have no idea. That Our Lady said will happen when Russia is converted. So I'm just throwing that out there because I happened to read that part of the Bible recently in my, every morning I read a little bit. It's like, wow, the end. I
never thought about that last line. There is going to be
an end of the age of the Gentiles. And after that, Jerusalem will no longer be downtrodden. Now, one way to view that is, he's talking about the New Jerusalem, the church, and the end of the age of the Gentiles was the end of the age of martyrs. And then from there, we had the expansion of the Holy Roman Empire. So that's already passed and done.
And then what happened next?
That's a way to read that. But I don't think so. I think this is looking forward to the actual conversion of the Jews as a people. And really, I think this is what marks the real end of the Jewish, it's called the diaspora, which is the kind of the dispersion of Jews throughout the world. Mm-hmm. People say, now that there's the state of Israel, that's over. I don't believe so. I don't think that it's over until the Jews convert and come to their true home, which is the Catholic Church. Yeah. But that's a bit of, I just wanted to put that in there because of everything else we've been talking about. That's my sort of thoughts and speculations about some of the things that are going on in history and what may really be going on that is like momentous in even a broader sense than what we've been talking about.
Now, of the things we've been talking about, what we didn't talk about is that third secret of Fatima. And I don't have a whole lot to say about this. But I
don't know that it relates at all to Russia.
No, I don't.
Or to modern events.
But I do. I hear quite a few people preaching on this matter, and look, do you know about the whole secret 1A, 1B?
Oh yeah,
2A,
the part A,
2B.
Part B, that kind of
I'm sorry, that's just not true.
What's not true?
There's the first secret is the vision of hell.
But doesn't she say something about that afterwards?
In the second secret, she talks about the vision of hell. And then she talks about Russia and about the war. There is no vision of this.
There's not a vision of the war.
No.
Okay, so the first secret is the vision of hell. The second secret is
the explanation of hell,
explanation
and
of the first
prophecy.
Vision, and the discussion of Russia, which is relevant because Russia's errors are what are going to lead souls to hell.
Yeah.
And then this third secret is this other thing. Now, here's the thing. I don't have a problem thinking that the third secret is that there's no part B. I don't have a big problem thinking that there is a part B. But, the third secret, you read it's like, it doesn't correspond to anything that's happened in history yet. It's like, okay, whatever it is, we won't know what it is until after whatever it has happened. And once it does happen, it'll be clear. Oh, that's what they're talking about. And this assassination attempt of JP2 isn't it.
Which is another big part of every prophecy. Prophecies are something you look back on, not look forward to.
That's the right, exactly. I mean, even the prophecies in the beginnings of Israel. God says, if you walk in my ways, I'm going to do this. If you don't, this is going to happen to you. And then even, it's kind of funny. I was reading yesterday, 2 days ago, Solomon's dedication of the first temple because Solomon built the temple. And his dedication of the first temple, and he goes through all the different things, and it's kind of, it's like, it's extremely wise, and, you're kind of wowed by Solomon's understanding of God. And he makes the point, he says, okay, God, this temple can't hold you. You are in the heavens, and you made the heavens. The heavens can't even hold you because you made them. But when the people of Israel look to this temple and pray, hear their prayer. And then he goes through all the different scenarios when they're gonna look to the temple and pray. When there's a drought and there's no rain, and they look to the temple and pray because they've offended you, hear their prayer and send rain. And when they've offended you and there's a pestilence, hear their prayer and help them. And he goes into things even when they're led away in captivity and look from foreign lands to this temple because they've offended you, and pray and ask for your forgiveness, hear their prayer and bring them back. All this kind of stuff. Well, all of these things are prophecies from Solomon of stuff that's going to happen later to the Israeli people.
And they didn't understand it when he was saying it.
They didn't understand it then. No, exactly. And then you look back and say, oh, wow, okay, that's what he was talking about.
Right.
Prophecy is always that way. And, obviously all the public prophecies. That's why we had to wait until Jesus came for anybody to actually understand Isaiah, for example. Right.
And it's my contention that when the third secret is fulfilled, we'll know it. We'll be like, that's what that was.
That's what they're. But until then, the attempt to line it up with silly things like I don't want to
like Pope John Paul
I don't mean to make
II's
light of the attempted assassination of JP2, but compared to this vision of the third secret, that was kind of silly.
Yeah, give me a break. Yeah. Okay, so I think we've talked for an hour and a half almost now.
Wow, yeah.
We got to get on.
We don't have a conclusion, but the thing is, I guess our point is, you see the normies who say, "Oh yeah, whatever, consecration already been done, don't need to worry about it." You can't quite rest on that. But then the Taylor Marshalls, for example,
right?
You can't take that as gospel either. You can't dismiss, because both of them can still work, especially when you consider how short a timeline we're looking at. 100 years is nothing.
Yeah.
In the plan of God.
And ultimately, you can't take what's going on right now and necessarily apply it, because we don't know what's going on right now.
Well, that's true.
We're about to get into Russian news, and I don't care what you're hearing. It's not the truth.
Yeah. Even it's like, okay, I listen to some Catholic podcasters and I've been in Ukraine and I helped refugees get across the border. Yes, there are refugees. Okay, nobody's denying that, that kind of stuff. But
there isn't every war.
That's not the story. That's not really what's happening.
And the fact is, those refugees are not fleeing Russia. They're fleeing Ukraine.
Yeah.
Because Ukraine is forcing people to fight.
That's a good point.
Aren't they?
It's like, okay, wait a minute. Russia's attacking.
That's what the Koreans did
into our army.
Yeah, that's what they did in Vietnam.
Fight. Well, not only that, but that's what the Nazis did.
That's what the Nazis did. That's what the Russians did.
How many people fled the Nazi empire not because they were forced? They felt like they were forced to flee out of Nazi rule, but because they were forced to flee the idea of being compelled to fight for the Nazis. That's what the whole Sound of Music epic.
The
story is about.
Yeah,
it wasn't because Austria had become intolerable. It's because he was going to be forced into a commission to on behalf of the Nazis. That's what was intolerable, that he fled.
Consider the fact that men are not allowed to flee. That means something.
Yeah.
It's... Oh, well. well, that takes us to
Yeah, we'll get
Ukraine
into let's do current
and
events.
Russia. Let's do that
because that's the biggest current event.
Yeah. When we first started talking about this, probably a year ago, you were like, "Look, it's not the Ukraine; it's Ukraine." And I have noticed funny? That with everybody's doing that.
Yeah,
but you know why people do that?
But like for example, like I noticed Taylor Marshall always says the Ukraine.
Yeah,
but Dinesh D'Souza sometimes it's like because he records, he doesn't go back and erase and re-record.
Yeah.
And I notice he sometimes flubs stuff, he gets stuff a little bit wrong, and that's why I like Dinesh so much, because it's like so honest. Even in his mistakes, he's honest. But he'll say the Ukraine once in a while. And I think he's one of those that was used to saying the Ukraine, but he's very aware that that's not how it's. And so usually he says Ukraine.
Like nuclear.
But nuclear. Yeah. So,
but you know why this is? That. Do you know why people say it?
No, why?
It's because of the Yukon.
Oh, the Yukon in Alaska.
Yeah.
Yukon.
So people just automatically make this.
You mean icon, but you can't? Sorry, I'm doing
That's Abbott and Costello.
Abbott and Costello, that's right.
So that's where the Ukraine
exactly
came from. Yeah. Russian economy is expecting kind of a shock, and they're saying, the economic war has been started against the country, and it's hard to forecast anything. But Russia seems confident that they can get through this, and
at least Putin seems confident.
I hate to say it, I'm inclined to believe him. I think this is actually good for Russia.
One big country. I mean, think about all the first of all of the farming and that kind of stuff internally.
I know it's cold up there.
They can produce a lot of stuff that they just need internally.
If they
and they
unleash the power of free market, there would be no stopping them.
Yeah, that's true.
If they did that, I don't think they will. But
I think they might eventually, but not under Putin.
Right. So anyway, but what's going on right now? We think we're isolating them economically and pushing them into a corner. What we're really doing is freeing them of the economic globalism.
That's true.
That's what's happening. And they're going to be a force to be reckoned with if they get through that. Mm-hmm. So, everybody's calling on sanctions for everyone else. Facebook and Instagram are allowing people to promote violence again. As if this is a big deal, because they did it all through Trump campaign.
Yeah.
So,
okay. You can promote violence against Trump supporters. Other than that, we're going to say that, you violated our anti-violence standards or whatever.
No Russian military, right. The vehicles and the soldiers have started fanning out in the woods surrounding Kiev, so they're getting ready to attack Kiev, the capital of Ukraine.
Right.
Russia is allowing foreign volunteers to join its armed forces. They're predicting that they're going to get 16,000.
Like Belarus and Ukrainian pro-Russian supporters.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they said that they've gotten 16,000 applications. I kind of don't believe them, but also people from the Mideast. That would include a lot of maybe
like Iran and Afghanistan.
Yeah. I think maybe there's some of that too.
Yeah, but
I mean, okay, but they live in a desert, and it's like, well, we could live in a cold desert or a hot desert. Let's go fight in the cold desert and get land there.
I don't know. I guess they
might get something for, I don't know.
Grass is always greener kind of thing? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's like what's going on right now, because they've got a corrupt government like Ukraine and versus a
It's like, wait a
dictatorship
minute,
like Russia, well,
Russia
which
can
one do
take
you
over
go
the
for?
Middle East too, yeah. And Russia actually did.
Well, they were in Afghanistan before we were.
Right. But, Russia, and this is something, that might, can kind of, on the local level and understanding people's decisions and stuff, Russia has done significant work. It would be incorrect to say that they did significant work to suppress corruption, but they did significant work to consolidate corruption.
Yeah.
So, for example, you've got all these different kinds of fees that you need to charge for interactions with the government, whether it's obtaining a visa or getting a birth certificate or any other kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, within the various local governments, it was standard to require and accept bribes. Oh, well, you want your application to go through and not get lost somewhere. Well, you got to grease my palms a little bit. Well,
right.
The Russia at the national level instituted things like a barcode identification for all official employees that are receiving payments and that kind of stuff. That made it very difficult for local governments and local government leaders to engage in that kind of graft from their citizens. And so and
in
a place
place
what that
as
did
corrupt
was
as
move
Ukraine.
the corruption to the top, to the Russian government. But it made the individual people feel like, oh, wait a minute, now there's less direct corruption. I don't feel like I'm being bilked every time I have to interact with my local government. Yeah. Well, that's a real thing. So people in Ukraine, people in Iran, Afghanistan, they can look at that and obviously this local corruption exists in those other places, and they can see, wait a minute, the Russian way might be better.
Yeah. Here is I'm going to give a list one after the other of some of the atrocities that are being accused.
Okay.
So Russian soldiers have damaged a Orthodox pilgrimage site in the Ukrainian Orthodox Church.
Okay. Was this
they don't really say they're not reporting any deaths?
Or was it just like, okay, they bombed a city, and as part of doing so, they happened to damage the site?
It's not saying.
Doesn't say. So
Russia is using white phosphorus bombs. This is being reported.
That's like
most of these things are being denied. Russia is denying these things. White House
is that like Greek fire, or is that just like really, really hot burning stuff?
I think it's really hot burning stuff, but it continues to burn long after it's exploded. So it does a lot of damage later.
It spreads a lot of white like fire everywhere.
Fire,
and then okay. I mean, again, that comes. So using white phosphorus, to me, it's like, well,
I do think
if it's against a military target, why not?
I know, but I believe it is.
If it's in a city, okay, yeah, maybe you don't want to,
It is against international law, though.
Oh, okay, it is. I didn't realize that.
So,
like Geneva Accords, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So
then they shouldn't be doing it.
Let's see. White House advisor is saying that Russia could be preparing for use of chemical weapons in Ukraine. No real evidence, just that's what they're claiming. Right. Russian troops storm an intensive care hospital and take around 400 people hostage.
Okay.
Now,
what does that mean?
That doesn't... Local authorities confirmed that the damaged hospital is now under Russian control. Maybe it's just that they're not making the 400 people who were staying there leave.
So how does that equal hostage situation? This isn't the same one that was damaged like last week. This is a different one.
Last week. And it ends up there were Russian troops in that hospital instead of patients, and that's why they did it.
You mean Ukrainian
troops? This
troops?
is something different. Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Ukrainian troops.
I saw that it's like, okay, 3 killed.
They keep saying, they bombed a school. But that's where the troops are.
It's like, yeah, okay, but there weren't any school kids there. Instead, it was a place for troops. So,
yeah.
All right.
This is a different situation where they overtook a hospital.
Okay, so they overtook a hospital, and they're holding them so-called hostage, which means possibly they're not forcing them to evacuate.
I have a feeling that's what it is.
I mean, God,
the way these things get reported, I just don't believe mainstream media. I'm sorry. I have no reason to believe it.
Here's the other thing. Is it possible that as evil as Putin is, and we both agree Putin is evil.
Yeah.
Is it possible that some of the military directors within Russia, some of the generals, in America we would call them the 3-star, 4-star generals, are not quite as evil as we assume Putin is?
Right. That's a possibility. Certainly not as evil as the Ukraine generals are. Because
so do we have examples of that?
I don't have any direct ones right now. Because I didn't.
I mean, it's not like Ukraine is some kind of Christian nation. It's not like Ukraine is Poland, for example, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's still a secular, unchristian nation.
I just know that that their men are trying to get out of fighting. I know that.
Okay. And if they're trying to get out of fighting, I mean...
That means something.
That means something significant, because men don't shirk from fights.
Right. Generally.
Although,
I mean, if... I don't know. If somebody were attacking Cheviot, I think
I was listening to Dinesh D'Souza, and he was making a point about, like, Democrats versus Republicans or something like that. And it's like, it was like, if the United States were invaded by a foreign nation, let's say the United States were placed in the situation that Ukraine is in, would you take up arms to fight, or would you flee? And overall, Democrats, Republicans together, overall, it was like, I forget, like 60
this was a poll?
Something, 70, maybe 71. No, I think it's like 71 was like for just Republicans and not Democrats. But like the overall number was like a little bit more than 50, like 60 something maybe percent said they would pick up arms and fight. The rest said they would flee. It's like, why isn't it 99% would say I'd pick up arms and fight?
Yeah, I don't get that.
I don't get that at all.
Maybe they were asking women.
That is so doggone scary.
Maybe they were talking women also.
Well, yeah, they were talking women, and a lot more women said they would flee than men.
I would imagine.
But why is it at 99% among men? Why is it 70% among men instead of 90-something percent?
We're going to get around to that soon, because I want to talk about why men are such wimps in America today.
We'll have to do our podcast on that whole thing.
Yeah, but not next week, because I got
that was an eye-opener for me. It's like, wow, America is much wimpier than I ever gave it credit for.
I knew that when everybody wore a mask.
But I don't think it's that way in Ukraine. I think the men who don't want to fight for Ukraine,
they don't
it's for
like
ideological reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, whether ideology is good or bad, I don't know, but I think it's not cowardice.
There is,
at least in some cases.
Yeah, there was a drama theater that was bombed. It was an air raid shelter holding up to 1,200 civilians, supposedly. It was largely destroyed by bombing.
How many people died?
It doesn't say how many people died. It does say that Russia authorities are denying that they bombed it.
Oh.
I'm not saying I believe Russia, but I don't believe Ukraine. I think Ukraine would bomb themselves.
It's just
Ukrainian authorities are evil.
Especially if they thought that the people being holed up there were largely pro-Russian, part of a pro-Russian faction.
Right.
Or something like that. Hey, let's bomb them, kill the pro-Russians, and then make it like Russia is bombing us.
Or if they didn't want to take care of them.
Refugees.
If you got 1,200 civilians, you got to take care of them. You got to feed them.
Well, that's true. That's true.
And if they don't have food, that's why Russia killed off their citizens. Because they couldn't feed them. the Ukrainian authorities are claiming that 2,187 civilians have been killed in Mariupol.
In where?
Mariupol.
Is that a Ukrainian city?
Yeah. Hold on.
How do you spell it? Mariupol.
Mariupol. So that's right on the banks of the Gulf.
So I don't know whether you say it Mariupol or Mariupol or what.
Yeah, but it's...
okay, so...
They're claiming 2,100 people, 2,200 people in that city alone. The United Nations is saying that they've got over 3 million refugees. That's a lot of refugees.
3 million refugees on that port city?
No, from Ukraine in general.
Oh, okay.
I know if there was an attack, obviously you try to get your family out of there.
Yeah.
But don't just leave.
If it's attacking
your
homeland,
fight.
It's like, hey, you take the kids, you go, I gotta stay and fight.
Yeah, this is my home. This is America. No, I'm not going to let them come in here and take it.
And I don't believe that if they really, I think Russian support is much higher than people give credit for.
I think Ukraine. So. The International Court of Justice orders Russia to immediately halt its invasion of Ukraine.
Well, obviously.
So there's that. Okay, I don't know how much this is true. A report from the Financial Times, a peace plan is drafted by Ukraine and Russia. The conditions include a ceasefire, Russian withdrawal, if Ukraine abandons all attempts of joining NATO, and accepts limits on its armed forces.
So...
They're saying that
long as you don't here's where I'm going to turn a little bit, anti-Russian, pro-Ukrainian, and it's not like I'm pro-Russian in any sense right now, but just think of the logic of this. If you agree to remove any obstacle to our ability to invade you, we won't invade you.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Okay, but this is being, first of all...
It's not like Ukraine is a threat to Russia.
They're saying that this plan was drafted by Ukraine and Russia.
Oh, like a mutual. Okay, not just
this is
Russia
something they
imposing.
Decided they could both agree with. Number two, Zelensky was quoted as saying that it would be impossible for them to join NATO right now.
Oh, okay.
It sounds like he's already given up on joining NATO.
On NATO, right.
So, maybe this is working. I don't know. Maybe they are close to peace. I doubt it, but maybe. So, that is all of our Russia news.
Okay.
Now we got everything else. On Java in Indonesia, there's a Mount Merapi erupts. 250 people are evacuated from the city, I guess. Let's see. But we had another... Oh, no. It was an earthquake. There was an earthquake in Japan, 7.3, triggering tsunami warnings. 4 people are killed, 94 others are injured. I don't know if there was actually a tsunami or if there was just a warning for a tsunami. But we talked once about how fast those waves travel.
Yeah,
wasn't it something like 500 miles an hour?
At where there was the one that traveled like across the Pacific.
The Atlantic, I think, or Pacific.
Was it the Atlantic?
I can't remember now, but it was all the way across.
And we were shocked at how fast it traveled.
Yeah, it was like faster than a jet.
But that's because of the near incompressibility of water.
Yeah. So if there were, it's saying there were tsunami warnings. I'm assuming by now, if they didn't report that there was a tsunami, then there wasn't
Didn't
one,
happen.
or at least
Right.
nothing to be worried about anyway. Let's see. Okay, the Constitutional Tribunal, which is the highest court in Poland, declares that the European Court of Human Rights cannot control the validity of the appointment of any judges of Poland. So they're saying, no, you don't got control over our judges.
The UN
they're telling
can't invalidate a judge in Poland.
Right.
Well, good for Poland.
So yeah, they're sticking up for themselves. I don't know why they're still part of the EU anyway. Why don't they just
why
get
not
out
just
of it?
drop
It's so
out?
stupid.
Do a Brexit. Do a Brexit.
Yeah,
Britain did it.
I don't
Poland
know.
can do it.
Yeah. Israel
the EU
votes.
is going to fall apart. In
Yeah,
fact,
it has to.
the EU is going to fall apart, and then either the rest of the European countries are going to become stronger for it, become self-sufficient, assert their sovereignty, or one by one they're going to become part of
fall
a
to Russia.
new USSR. Yeah.
Yeah. Israel votes 45-15. Their voting body, whatever that is, to bar Palestinian spouses of Israelis from obtaining citizenship.
Oh, so you can't just marry an Israelite and say,
if they come
"No, I'm a
from
citizen."
the West Bank, I'm not done. If
Go
they
ahead.
come from the West Bank or the Gaza Strip.
Oh, only those ones.
And they block any family reunifications of Israelis and their spouses if their spouses come from enemy countries like Lebanon, Syria, and Iran.
I'm not entirely surprised by that.
Yeah.
In America, we have probably the most liberal, and I don't mean liberal in a good way or necessarily a bad way, but one of the most liberal concepts of citizenship of any country in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, there are countries where you have to have been part of that country for X number of generations to even consider being considered a citizen.
Right.
So, in a country like Israel that are, let's face it, Israel, whether you're pro-Zionist, anti-Zionist, pro-Israel, anti-Israel, whatever, Israel is, as a political reality, in an ongoing, practically for their entire existence, in modern existence. I'm not talking biblical, I'm talking modern.
Right.
Existential struggle. It's like, okay, the struggle is not how much power are we going to have, how much influence are we going to have worldwide. The struggle is, are we going to be a nation or not?
Can we exist? Yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't surprise me, and I can't say that I'm terrible. It's like, okay, yeah. So it seems like maybe a natural outgrowth of some of the realities of what are going on in the Middle East.
Right. There's a huge wildfire in South Korea, the biggest one in South Korean history.
Really?
It's 24,000 hectares. Hectares. What's a hectare? Is that a number of acres?
Well,
hectare is a metric unit of square measure equal to 100 acres. So we're looking at...
No, hold on.
240,000 hectares? Google's
A
dictionary.
hectare is 2.47 acres.
Okay, what equal to 100 acres? Well, why did they...
Wait,
this is
where
the
did
weirdest
you
definition.
see that? Because, 1 hectare, 2.47 acres. Okay, let
listen.
me. I went up hectares to acres.
A metric unit of square measure equal to 100 acres. And then in parentheses it says...
100.
You're not listening.
I know.
And then in
I'm
parentheses... Okay.
I'm reading the same
And
thing
then
you are. And it's nonsense.
And then parentheses... 2.471
Oh, no.
acres.
Okay, reread that word after 100. It
Oh,
doesn't say acres.
okay, Aries. I
Okay.
see. It's not acre.
It's 10,000 square meters. Okay. So it's part of converting. So what? Yeah, just talk about acres.
2.5
Everybody
acres.
understands acres.
Yeah, why don't they just say acres?
We ought to start like a coalition to abolish metric or something like that.
It's so easy to do metric.
I kind of laugh, and I'm saying that tongue in cheek because I'm an engineer and I'm very interested in science, and I love metric when it comes to things like cosmology and quantum physics and stuff like that. But in the real world, let's just deal with normal, feet, miles, acres, and so forth.
So we're looking at about 57,000 acres of land on fire in South Korea.
What part does it say? What
South
part?
Korea is that big? Uljin County, and that is. Whoops! Daggone it! Here when I do that. Let's try this again. That looks like a
so
tiny all the way. It's about halfway down, but all the way to the east.
To the east, yeah.
Along the Sea of Japan, right along there.
It's like okay, all right.
I didn't know South Korea was even that big, huh?
Yeah, I mean it's really, when you look at it, it's like it's like this.
It's tiny, but
it's cut off from the mainland by North Korea, and it's like this. It's kind of like this little enclave of more. South Korea does have a socialist government. It's not like they're capitalist free, that kind of stuff. But it's this but they want their sovereignty, their independence from North Korea, which obviously there's some distinction, some kind of difference of what they think of as, of socialist, because North Korea is just abject poverty and that kind of stuff, and South Korea is kind of more thriving. I mean, you get companies like LG,
you could just look at the roads
Samsung
there
and stuff like that.
You look at a map and you can see the roads crisscrossing South Korea
versus
and then
North Korea.
On
It's
North
like
America, Korea, it's like there's nothing there.
It's
except a bunch of cities here and there with overcrowded and all right.
But anyway, so
they're
forest
burning.
Fire. Hopefully they'll get over it. Maybe they'll learn some forest management techniques. Not from California.
They're also saying that they have detected new activity in there's a nuclear test site in North Korea that was kind of shut down in 2018.
And they think it's opening back up?
They think they are, opening that back up. There's new.
So how do they detect? I mean, are these things that are detected
These are
by
satellite
picking
pictures.
up? Are they satellite, or is it like by picking up like various seismic monitors
saying satellite.
around the globe? Okay, satellite. Because you could imagine like a nuclear test, a nuclear explosion. I mean, seismic equipment might be able to pick up a nuclear...
Well, you remember there was that mountain that kind of... They had trouble. It was during Trump era. Didn't they have some kind of like an explosion in North Korea? Somewhere close to China, in one of the mountains in North Korea, they had... It sounded like an experiment gone bad.
Oh, okay.
Remember that? And I don't know.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it was one of the news things on our podcast.
Yeah.
I don't remember the details, but...
So, a small, let's see, 0.8 to 2 meter. So, a 1 or 2 meter big meteor, asteroid,
think about
was discovered. Yeah, discovered by an observatory, and it finally came here, and it fell over the Arctic Ocean.
Oh, actually, fell.
Yeah.
Okay, so hit the Arctic Ocean. Did it create a wave that was seen anywhere?
I don't. It doesn't say, but they're saying this is the smallest asteroid to have been discovered before impact.
Oh,
so 2 meters.
We have larger asteroids that have impacted.
Yeah, but you don't hear about them because even 2 meters, That's huge, but it burns up before it just comes down in a ball.
There are asteroids that are big enough that would be like big enough to
like a city,
land a spaceship on or something like that.
Yeah,
2 meters. It's like
2 meters, looking out into the middle of the space where it's like an open ocean or something.
That's tiny.
I mean, there's nothing. That is tiny.
That's
very small.
If you think of 2 meters in space is like seeing a basketball in the Atlantic Ocean somewhere.
Yeah. Let's
amazing.
see. YouTube blocks all accounts associated with Russia's state-funded media outlets for violation of blah 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 blah. Russia is censoring, and so is America. I'm sorry, I don't see a difference.
Happens. Well,
I'm not gonna.
It's like the saying, "Shit happens, censorship happens."
Yeah. Iran launched 12 ballistic missiles at Iraq, and one of them exploded. I guess they were just
regular conventional
explosions.
Bombs.
Yeah. One of them went off near the U.S. consulate, and apparently damaged the U.S. consulate.
That was the report I heard, because I heard a report, or my wife said, "Wow, it looks like Iran has bombed the U.S. consulate in Iraq." Not quite that. It's that a bunch of missiles were launched, and one of them was close enough to damage the U.S. consulate.
Yeah, but no deaths or injuries are reported.
Okay.
Ethiopian government says that it will take action against men who were seen in a video wearing Ethiopian military and police uniforms and burning civilians alive.
Whoa.
So they're going to take action against them.
They should.
Yeah.
Wow.
New York City Police Department releases images of a suspected serial killer who has shot 5 homeless men so far.
You said New York City.
New York City Police Department releases images.
Okay.
Yeah. Here's the funny thing. You go look at the images, it's a guy in a black suit with a black mask with a black hat. I mean, it's...
Oh, you mean he looks like Antifa?
Yeah. No, it's not that. It's just that, what's the point of releasing the images?
Why release the image? Oh, hey, if you see
anyone... It doesn't
anyone,
tell you anything.
If you see anyone
if you see anyone look like this, like all of America right now, because they told everybody to wear a mask. But, okay, it looks like the D.C. Police Department has arrested someone in connection...
With what?
Wait a minute.
What are you talking about?
Oh, okay, wait a minute. The serial killer was in New York City and in Washington, D.C.
They think he's the same guy?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. But Washington, D.C. has arrested someone.
Okay.
And they think it's the same guy that was in New York City.
Let's hope. Nobody likes serial killers being on the streets.
Right. A DDoS cyber attack temporarily takes down the Israeli government websites. So,
okay.
I don't...
So
why isn't there a better way to protect yourself from DDoS? We get DDoSed all the time, my household.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've never experienced that.
Well, you don't have...
Maybe I have and just not known it. And maybe I've just ascribed it to, the internet's acting up.
If suddenly for hours you can't
seem to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's... But the thing
But I know it's happening to us, though, because my idiot kids get on these games and start yelling insults at other people, and then we'll get DDoS for like 2 days straight.
It's like, come on, kids, be civil. That's
they
the
can't
thing.
just be civil.
Okay, be civil, but at the same time, you're playing games. Why can't the other people accept a little bit of smack in the right spirit?
Because it's not in the right spirit. I've heard them. I've walked in on them. I'm like, what are you saying?
It's not just
don't use that
smack.
language in my house. Yeah.
Okay.
I get so mad at them, and it's like, why don't you just be civil, because, and then this wouldn't happen.
The first D of DDoS is distributed, and the whole point of that is that there's no way for a given router to understand that this one singular packet that it's passing is part of a distributed attack. And that's why DDoS is so difficult to defend against.
There was one guy who it went on for a month, and I finally I had to change. Yeah, I had to change. This was back when we had what's the Time Warner one that became whatever company they are now.
Time Warner. Were they bought by Cox or?
No.
Comcast.
Because
Really?
with the S.
They weren't bought by Spectrum, were they?
Yeah, Spectrum.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So back then, you got a dedicated IP address, and you were going to have that IP address like for as long as you had that bill, and it was impossible to get a new IP address. But now we are using a service with a dynamic IP address, and if I release the IP address and restart the router, I can get a different IP address.
And that you can get past DDoSs with that. That's true.
Yeah. Did I identify DDoS? Did I said
distributed
that
denial
we get
of
attacked.
Service. Yeah, you said DDoS, but it's distributed
okay,
denial
so
of
basically,
service.
it's like you get a whole bunch of you get a whole bunch of information coming into your router, and your router doesn't know what to do with it all, and it kind of clogs up the system.
Yeah,
it's
that's
like
the denial
somebody
of service. And the
putting a bunch of leaves
is that
or something in your
this information
toilet.
is coming from 10,000 different parts of the internet at the same time. That's why no router can recognize that it's part of a DDoS attack.
Yeah. You would think there would be a way to solve this problem. It's been going on for years.
There might be a way, but it would be a clampdown on the internet so severe that nobody would want it.
Well, Israeli wants it. They were shut down for, let's see.
How long?
It doesn't say how long. It doesn't even say. Maybe it's still going on.
Like whitehouse.gov in our country.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not like all of Israel.
Interior, Health, Justice, and Welfare Ministries.
Okay.
And the Prime Minister's office.
All right.
You know, everything. That is all of my news.
Wow. Okay.
I had a lot of news.
You did. I was surprised. There's not a lot of nonsense news this week. A few things, and then something of a personal nature that.
Okay.
Let's see. Where do I go? Oh, you know what? Okay. So first, you know, ever since Biden got elected, and in that same round of elections, you know, the Democrats took control of basically the government.
Yeah. Pretty much everything.
And they've been, you know, I mean, their overall approval rating has plummeted, especially Biden's. I think this is one of those things that they're like clinging to be their legacy. It's like if everything else goes to shit, well, we can at least say that we did this. Now, apparently, I can't even imagine what constitutional power this comes under, and I can't imagine what state, any state, would say, oh, we're going to obey that, instead of just saying, screw you, we're going to do our own thing. But the U.S. Senate approves a bill to make daylight savings time permanent.
For everyone?
For everyone
Everybody
in the United
has
States.
to follow it?
Yeah. So starting in 2023, it would be like, okay, we switch to daylight savings time in the spring. We do our spring forward in 2023. And then after that, we never fall back. Now, wait a
minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're saying that we will no longer be saving time? We will no longer be changing the clocks?
Right.
I thought you meant they're forcing everyone to change the clocks every 6 months.
No, the
That's
U.S.
not what you're
Senate
saying.
approves a bill to make daylight saving time, basically to put us on permanent daylight savings time, even in the winter. Isn't that
so?
It's
going to
stupid.
Yeah. Why?
It says the change would enable children to play outdoors later.
Yeah, like 11 o'clock.
You know, what parent has gauged their time to call in kids by the clock? No parent ever. It's always the street lights.
Yeah. So,
Street
11
lights are on.
o'clock
Let's
at
start-
night,
come in.
it's going to finally get dark in Shivia. That's insane.
Well, no, it's like it's gonna keep light until I mean it'll push getting dark out till like 10 o'clock, but it'll also push it later in the
11.
winter. So when you're used to it getting dark at like I don't know what 7 o'clock in the winter, well now it's going to be 8 o'clock. Well, what kids play outside in the winter anyway?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, they're supposed to be home doing homework or whatever.
And they're talking about...
This is so stupid!
Endorsing economic activity.
Yeah.
Advocating brighter afternoons and more economic activity.
Really?
That's not how it works anymore.
It's stupid.
People don't even go by daylight anymore. That's retarded. And kids don't have economic activity. They play... I don't know if they play baseball in the street anymore, but the whole thing is dumb.
It is dumb. It's like dumb from the ground up. This is just...
I wish Ohio would say, you know what? Screw you. We're doing it anyway.
I hope Indiana... here's the thing. Indiana never used to
Indiana
do
was the holdout.
Indiana used to just... It's like, what? Why would we change our clocks? That's stupid. And Indiana was correct. But I hope if this bill passes the House... Indiana says, screw you, we're still going to change our time.
The thing is, it bugs me that they do it at all. It's just now that the federal government has tried to weigh in, it's like, no.
Okay, now I want to do it just to give the finger to the federal government.
Yeah, I'm telling my boss, I'm sorry, I'm changing my clocks. Expect me an hour late.
This is so stupid. But the thing is, it's like... What other legacy could this Democrat administration possibly hope for? They've failed everywhere else.
Yeah, the war with Russia, maybe. That'll be their legacy.
They killed some Americans in Afghanistan. I guess that's something, huh?
Yeah. Insane.
All right. It being St. Patrick's Day, I guess in England and Ireland, a bunch of people are upset at how their Guinnesses are being poured. Now, just to be precise, the proper way to pour a Guinness is going to result, and we're talking about draft, not out of a bottle or something like that. The proper way to draw a Guinness is going to result in what you would think of as a priest's collar at the top of foam.
A head.
Priest's collar size at the top.
Okay.
But people are really upset that they're getting sometimes no head at all. And then sometimes like all head and practically no beer.
Yeah.
All I can say is, I don't know, first world problem?
Do you know there's like a school
on drawing Guinness out of a keg, out of a tap?
No, out of a bottle.
Oh, out of a bottle.
Either one.
Oh,
both.
Pouring Guinness out of a
you
bottle.
You can go to a Guinness. There's like, I guess they have it at their. There's actually a certification.
By the way, do you?
No,
just real
you
quick.
can go there and get certified.
Does everybody realize that this Guinness, the beer, is the same Guinness of the Guinness Book of World Records?
I didn't know there was a Guinness in the Guinness Book of World Records.
Oh yeah, the Book of World Records.
You mean the same
is
person?
Guinness. And it's the Guinness Book of World Records, Guinness of the Guinness Brewery.
As in family name? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. As in the name of the brewery, Guinness. Right, exactly. That is the same people.
There is a school that you can go to
learn
how
to pour Guinness.
Not just to learn, but to get certified.
You can actually get a certificate.
Yeah.
I might do that just to have that.
Well, like waiters will have Guinness.
Because they might bring a bottle of Guinness to your table. Okay, I'd like you to pour that for me. Oh, okay.
And you go to certain restaurants that guarantee that their waiters are Guinness certified.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now, I'm actually, like, during this podcast, I've been drinking beer out of a Guinness glass that is...
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say this. It's a personalized Guinness glass. I was in, like, a Kroger or something like that, and there was this... a couple of guys that had this machine set up, and for free. They weren't charging anything. Oh yeah, go ahead and give us your name. We'll etch a glass with your name, a Guinness glass with your name, and you can have it for free.
Okay.
So I got one. It says Dan. Cool.
Okay.
And it's got the Guinness, what is that, a harp? It's got the Guinness harp, like, embossed on one side, and then the Guinness name and the harp in like, gold on the other side of the glass.
Okay.
So, anyway, people are upset that their Guinnesses are not being poured correctly. Well, like I said, first world problem.
Can't just be upset. You got to do something about it.
That's right.
Are they trashing the place?
I don't know. I know. It's like, okay, it's a bar. What are you going to do? They poured your Guinness wrong. Hey, give it to me again. I don't know. Whatever. All right. This is kind of interesting. We did a couple of podcasts about this kind of stuff, and there was even we did the one about the book about the haunted daughter of Cincinnati.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Couple claims to have proof of the afterlife as CCTV picks up a ghost of a deceased tenant. And you know, I mean, I haven't watched the video. It says you got to turn off your ad blocking software. I'm not willing to do that. But a couple of the still images, it's like, well, yeah, you know, it really could be. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what else is in their apartment. Like, it's like, okay, well, have you taken your camera?
I'm looking at the image, and it looks very much like a
woman.
What's the game that everybody Minecraft character.
Yeah, the pixel.
That's what I see.
Because that's part of the pixelization. But it's like, okay, if you go there during the day and you just like walk up to it when the character, when the so-called ghost is not there, what does that part of your hallway look like? I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'd be interested in knowing.
But it says that the ghost is roaming about, and there's a video link that you can click, but I'm not willing to turn on
okay. So it's moving. I'll turn it off.
Yeah, click it and see what it looks like.
Where are you looking? Where?
Okay, did you open the link? So it's like the first... Please turn off ad blocking software to view this video.
I gotta find my ad blocking software.
Turn it off.
I can't even... That's a Roku.
I don't know
how did that get on there?
Turn off ad block. So do you have Firefox? It should be like in the upper right-hand corner, like AdBlock Plus or something like that. I don't know. It kind of reminds me. You remember that recording you had of it was mostly white noise. Your kids playing with the phone.
Yeah,
it's kind of like that, except video-wise.
Yeah, well, that didn't sound like white noise. That sounded like some guy talking to my kid.
I still heard white noise with a lot of,
I heard a kid say hello, and the other guy said hello, and they had a conversation.
Do you still have that?
I can't find it, but I know I have it somewhere.
Maybe I have it. I mean, because I used to have a thing of I'd never throw away emails, even junk emails.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Anyway, so ghost. You guys watch the video. You decide. Send us a quick note. Let us know whether you think it's a ghost or just, a stupid effect.
If you can get it to work, I still haven't.
You still haven't even gotten it to play?
Yeah, my ad block just won't. We've talked about this way too long.
That's true. Okay, last on my nonsense. This is my son thought of this, and it's really cool that he thought of it, and actually really funny. So this is St. Patrick's Day, and everybody knows the tradition on St. Patrick's Day is you wear green. If you don't wear green, then they get, somebody who is wearing green gets to pinch you, right? You've heard of that, right?
I No, I've never.
You've never heard of that? If you don't wear green on St. Patrick's, or if you see somebody not wearing green, you get to pinch them. If you are wearing green,
I dare you to try that. Go around pinching girls all day.
I know. It's like, well,
St. Patrick's my favorite day.
Can I pick where I pinch them? Okay. Well, my son, specifically, he works at a hospital. He's a sonogram, ultrasound, sonogram technician, whatever, for cardio, so like heart sonograms and stuff like that. Anyway, he specifically, purposely did not wear green today, and anytime anybody brought it up, he said, "You can pinch me if you can tell me one thing that St. Patrick did or said." Now, I thought it was hilarious that he thought to do that. And that's like really cool. But I'm kind of depressed at the fact that nobody that he encountered during his entire day at work was able to come up with anything at all.
Nobody knew that he got rid of snakes in Ireland?
Nobody brought up like legendary stuff like getting rid of
shamrock?
Snakes. Nobody brought up the shamrock as a symbol of the Trinity. Nobody brought up converting Ireland to Christianity.
And nobody knew he was a leprechaun?
No, he was a leprechaun? I didn't know that. Nobody was able to say anything, either legendary.
Are you sure maybe it's just that nobody wanted to pinch him?
Well, it could be.
I've never heard that. And I didn't wear green today either.
But did anybody?
Of course, I have a limited number of people.
You didn't challenge anybody.
Nobody asked.
Huh?
Nobody asked.
Nobody asked. I know, yeah. Now, I asked people.
Right.
I mean, I walked into the John,
pinch people?
And the guy was standing there. I said, "Yeah, I'm looking for people to pinch today." He laughed. He said, I don't even realize what day it is until I get my second cup of coffee."
Yeah.
And then I saw the secretary at work. I said, "You're not wearing your green." She said, "I have a green necklace. I just took it off." Well, I took her word for it. I didn't pinch her. Because where could you pinch a woman?
Good thing.
So...
Only one spot.
Exactly.
Well, there's 3 spots, actually.
And I'm married, so never mind.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay.
But anyway, I thought it was really cool that he thought to do that, because it's like, hey, if you can tell me something... Because all of those people that he interacted with, maybe some of those people will actually go look up a little bit about St. Patrick, so that they're, well, wait a minute. I'm calling you out on St. Patrick's Day. I'm wearing green for St. Patrick's Day. I have no idea who St. Patrick is. All right, well, go learn about him.
Okay.
All right, that's all I've got.
All right. I do have a saint.
Cool.
Saint Aidan of Ferns, also known as Moog of Ferns. So the Aidan would be spelled Aidan of ferns, as in the plant-like thing. So he lived from 558 to 632. If you look him up, you'll see him on Wikipedia, also as Saint Moog.
Okay, but here's the thing. Okay, the obvious saint today would have been St. Patrick, right?
Yeah.
But St. Aidan...
I didn't know it was St. Patrick.
...is an Irish saint.
Right. He is an Irish saint.
So...
And St. Caelan supposedly was the one who wanted to... He saw St. Aidan, and he wanted to baptize him as the infant. But they were, I guess he was out... They had to cross water to get the baby Aidan to St. Caelan, who was just... I guess Father Caelan at the time or something.
Okay.
Maybe Bishop Caelan. They couldn't find a boat, but they floated him across on a slab of stone.
Wait,
wait. They put him on...
What does that mean? Floated him?
It's just a miracle. Yeah, they put him on a stone, and the stone floated. So they
this
said,
is a
let's
miracle.
just push the stone across.
Okay.
Yeah. As a youth, he was taken hostage at one point by the High King of Ireland. And the king was very impressed with him, so he told him he could go. But Aden said he wouldn't go until all of the other hostages were released.
Oh, okay.
And the king let them all go finally.
Wow.
So as he's growing up, he's becoming something of a sensation, and a lot of people are coming and want to become his disciples, but he didn't want that kind of publicity, I guess. So he fled Ireland to go to Wales to study under St. David, who I guess he was a bishop at the time. Mm-hmm. There was, I guess at some point he came back to Ireland. And when he got there, there was a army of Saxons who were planning to attack, and he destroyed them by rolling a whole bunch of stones down this giant valley into their camp and killed them all. The king there, this is in Ferns. Let's see. The king there was grateful for it, so he granted him Ferns, which is a city in the county of Wexford.
Okay.
Now, he stayed there for the rest of his life, I think. He was, there are several miracles and legends attributed to him. In one, he had broken a jug that he was getting a big jug of ale, which is beer, for his fellow monks. And he dropped it and broke it.
Like 6th century.
Yeah.
I didn't realize beer as a specific ale was even a thing then. Wow. Well, maybe only in Ireland.
That's the way it's reported. I don't know.
Maybe only in Ireland.
Yeah. Well, he broke it, and he made the side of the cross over the shards, put them back together, and then went ahead and got his jug of ale.
Okay, more proof that God approves of beer.
Mm-hmm. In one case, a local begged him for a meal because he saw him grinding flour. And so St. Aidan gave him some of his flour.
Right.
And then the guy came back again and disguised himself as a blind man and to ask for more. And St. Aidan was very annoyed with this, and he kind of cursed him. He said, "From now on, your descendants will never lack for a blind member."
Oh,
so
wow.
From now on, someone in your
curse.
family is going to be blind from a saint. There was one time some wolves devoured a calf.
Wait a minute. Is that
at one of his monasteries?
Is there any more about the curse thing?
It doesn't say whether or not. I think we're supposed to assume that the guy always had a blind man in his family,
or that the family died out. Because there was a similar thing, not cursed from a saint, but cursed from a gypsy in our family tree.
Yeah, that all
the first
men
son would
have large noses.
No.
That's the way I heard it.
That's still around. I didn't know about that one. No, it was the firstborn son would die an unnatural death, and it worked out that way for 7 generations, according to legend that our dad was able to dig up while he was interviewing people, doing genealogy research, until there was somebody who didn't have any sons.
Yeah, I remember.
There were, like suicides. Deaths in an insane asylum, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right, back to St. Aidan.
Okay, there was another time where some wolves had eaten one of the calves, and the mother cow, the heifer, was kind of distraught and just wouldn't calm down. So St. Aidan sent for his cook, and he blessed the head of the cook. And from then on, the heifer would follow him around and lick him and as if he was a calf. There was also one time when...
all right, I got to ask...
There were...
Before you go on, where are you finding these stories? I typed in his name, and I've looked at 7 links so far from Google, and they're all these short one-paragraph things
Unless
that
I'm
don't
looking
tell
at the
any
wrong
of these
guy.
stories of his life. Where did you find this? Is this a wiki? I avoided Wikipedia. Is this all from Wikipedia?
I think most of this is from Wikipedia. Usually I don't get my stuff from Wikipedia, but Wikipedia had the most stuff this time.
Okay.
But usually I search for like an hour or two, going from site to site, looking sometimes through like Google Books. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I get it there, and I just keep looking until I find these little stories.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I should have clicked on Wikipedia first. I avoided that, and I was clicking on all these Catholic sites, and I couldn't find any of the stuff you're talking about. But now that I click on Wikipedia, It's like, well, okay, yeah, this stuff is there. And then there's a whole bunch of references.
So he saw some British. It was a British delegation from bishops, and he came across them. They were on their journey, and they looked exhausted, and they were asking for food. And he, being the bishop, he was the bishop in that area,
right.
And he told them they could, even though it was during Lent, he told them they could go ahead and eat a slaughtered cow.
Right. Back then, just so everybody knows, back then Catholics were constrained to absolve from meat, or to abstain from meat, during the entirety of Lent, not just Fridays. Meat and fat. That's where the term Fat Tuesday comes from. Because if whatever fat that you didn't use, like fat for cooking, whatever, up by that Tuesday, you had to throw it out because it would have turned rancid by Easter time. And that's why the term Fat Tuesday exists. So Catholics back then had to abstain from meat and fat during all of Lent.
Yeah. He told them they were excused and they could go ahead and eat it because a cow was really just milk and vegetables in condensed form. And he also mentioned that the whey and biscuits that they were eating had so many weevils that they were practically meat.
Oh, you're just eating protein anyway.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So he is. It doesn't really say much about his death. There's no story about his death, but he died in 632.
Is he the patron saint of anything?
Beekeepers.
Beekeepers.
Because when he came back to Ireland, he brought honeybees with him.
Oh, so he introduced honeybees to Ireland.
I think that's what we're supposed to
take from that. Wow. Okay. So that's an interesting question that just came into mind. Honeybees. Are honeybees the one species that, regardless of whether they're native, should not be considered invasive anywhere in the world?
Well, I don't know. Have you heard about them killer bees?
I'm not talking about killer bees. Those are laboratory engineered, special breed, that kind of stuff.
I don't know about that. I thought they were African bees that somehow were in a boat.
I thought they were like
and
hornets
got here
too,
and crossbred with American honeybees.
I didn't think they were honeybees. I thought they were like hornets.
I think they are.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
Did you ever see them? Some of those nature shows show these, natives in South America, I think, or maybe it was Africa. I can't remember now. That would go after honey, and it was like a dangerous thing because the bees had these giant swarms. And
well, I've seen like in America, like people getting caught in swarms of bees and
yeah, but not like that. It's a specific kind of bee.
Oh, okay.
It's like a giant bee.
But
I don't know.
It's a crossbreed.
But they were wild.
Huh?
They would show how they would find the hive. Here's how they would find the hive. They would catch a bee and they would tie a feather to it.
Uh-huh.
And then let it go and then follow it back to its hive.
Like a tiny down feather? Okay. Oh, so these are wild. These are not like beekeeper bees.
Right, they're wild. And then they would find the hive, and then they would cut half of it away, and that would be, hey, we got honey.
There's the honey. But then they would get
and they could sell it because
swarms.
They were.
Well, duh. I think normal honeybees do that.
Yeah, I know, but they're wild honeybees, and they're not the kind of
But there's a way to harvest
bees
honey
that would...
without getting...
They don't raise them. This is in a land where they don't domesticate animals, apparently. That's...
Okay. I don't know that
That's a
goes
European-
against my thesis that honeybees, as such, are a good species everywhere in the world.
Well, all I'm saying is that honeybees came from somewhere else, and they got to South America, and they mated with the American bees, and they made this really dangerous
They turn
kind
into
of
killer
bee.
bees.
Yeah, but they're still honeybees, I think. They collect honey.
But that's not the same as
And they have
America.
hives
Like
with
in
honey.
North America, like when you have beekeepers and stuff like that,
Yeah, those are a different kind.
they don't worry about their bees like intermating with some other species of bees.
I don't know why it happened. I don't know how it happened.
Yeah. Okay.
But I remember in the 80s, the big scare of the killer bee?
Well,
I went to
remember
bed
the
at
killer
night
bee, but
worried
I
about
always thought
this.
those were hornets.
No, they're bees.
I thought the term bee was just because, people generally think of a hornet as a sort of super dangerous bee.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay. Wow. Well, nonetheless,
Anyway,
I always like honeybees.
if you
but just real honeybees.
if you raise honeybees, you could
Yeah, they have
praise
Stingers,
Saint
but
about your
it's not like they're out to use their stingers.
yeah, because it kills
It
them.
kills them. Yeah.
They'll still use it though.
Well, I know. I've stepped on them before. It's like, whoa.
Yeah. Okay, that's the end of Saint Aidan.
Saint Aidan. Wow. Okay. Wow. So he did all kinds of stuff in Ireland.
Yeah.
And of course, this is St. Patrick's Day, so Ireland is kind of on the mind anyway.
But Ireland is such a sad state.
Oh gosh,
Well,
it needs all the prayers of
existence.
St. Aidan and St. Patrick and any other patron that Ireland can muster.
They have voted as a nation democratically, and of course, we don't know if there's any evil stuff here. We don't know if there was fraud. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Within the vote
But-
itself, right.
As a nation, they have voted to allow the killing of babies.
Yeah. They didn't used to be. Abortion
It's
used to be
evil.
outlawed there.
Yeah, it's just so sad. And I think the only Catholic place anymore is Poland.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Well, I think that's all we got.
End of the age of the
we're almost
Gentiles.
3 hours. Yeah. Yeah. It seems like it. Well, folks, think about what we said, and as always,
Keep circling the beads.
and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.
All right. How much have you drank today? You've drank a lot. No, it's not slow. You do this thing when you drink a lot. Yeah, I know. You launch into talking, and you will not stop for anything, no matter how boring and pointless it is. No, I didn't say you're drunk. I said you've been drinking.